Now let's go over folder number 3 in our week 1 folder. It's called variables. And this will go in a little bit more in depth than what we covered in the lecture and the overview of the lecture. So on the first page, I'm just going to simply open it up with Sublime. And here you see some values. Now, if I go to open this up in Chrome and open up my developer tools, we can start to experiment, which is what I want you to do with this code. So in this case, I'm outputting the numeral 7. Now, what I want to show you with variables is that they can be numbers, and in this case, they work. But if I were to take my second variable, my value that's Pascal cased, which means the first letter is uppercase, as well as the camel casing. So what do you think happens when I have this? I have a number and then a string. Now, if I were to add them, 25. Well, that's because 2 with the string 5 is 25. So what if I were to go to my value and do something like this, parse int? Now I hit this and it's 7. Why? Well, this turned the string into a number. So what happens if I console.log parse int my value, like so? But we already know that's going to be a 5. We want to know type of. Remember, these debugging tools are just awesome. And in this case, I have a missing, notice the missing closing parentheses. Now watch, when I click on this link, look what happens. I go right here. Oh, and it's true. I have 1, 2, 3 opening parentheses and 2 closing. So the beauty of our tools and our console is that we can fix things right away. So I have fixed it. Now I can reload the page. And in console, I have the number. That's the type. That is the value. So with math functions, things like that, they will not work if they're not both numbers. So let's say it was 5.2. Well, let's try this now. If I hit refresh, notice how parse int has made it 5.2. It's made it a 5. So because there is a decimal, we should use parse float. So I'm going to go ahead and do parse float like this, and then parse float here as well. And when I hit refresh, I get 7.2 because the float turned it into a float or a decimal. So that's the number 1 script variable. Let's look at the next one, number 2. In this case, I have more numbers, and I'm going to go ahead and stop this right now. Actually, I'm going to hold off because this is a good lesson. I thought I had errored, but I didn't. I apologize. So when I open this second variable, let's look at the code. This is a case where we have 2 identical values. So now, result equals my value. Well, guess what it's going to be? Well, we sort of already tipped our deck. It's a 10, and that's because we've overridden the value of my value. So variables are case sensitive. And that's what this script is about. So let's look at the next one, variable 3. And this, I went a little bit overboard, I think. I kind of like it, though. And when I click on this, I get, what's the teacher's name? And I'll do Chris. And I have undefined here. So let's take a look of what has occurred here. So inside here, I have a variable that equals, what's the teacher's name? And the second parameter, which I didn't teach in the window object part of this course, is what you want to populate the text field with. So again, if I hit refresh, I get the teacher. So now we've got variables. So I have variable statements, and I have teacher plus demanding equals tech. Well, if I were to give this to you as an assignment, what's wrong? Well, let's take a look. If I have an undefined for each one of these things, so no matter what I do, I get undefined. So what I'm going to do is open Developer Tools and show you how to debug this. Oh, look at this. Teacher is not defined. Well, where is it? Teacher is right here. Oh, look at that. So what I did was give it a personalized variable name, Chris. Don't do that. Make it generic. So if I were to make it the teacher itself, it could equal anything. It could equal Chris. It could equal Tom. Now that I've saved this, I can hit refresh. Now, I want to remind you that the error was in line 21. Look where the actual error problem was. It was up in line 10. So when you get an error message like that, one that reads teacher is not defined, just find the variable above line 21 and see if it's been defined. So line 21 is the first thought of teacher. Now I had Chris up here. So name your variables something smart. I recommend you do a small case, but you heard that in the lecture. So now I can hit refresh and put in Chris here, and now I get statements. Okay, so this builds us up to our homework, and it also shows us some string methods. So let's take a look at each line. I've got variables in equal sentences with spaces before the quotes. That's important because we want to format it. We know that teacher equals what the user entered here, and I have techie teacher equals teacher plus demanding tech. So I'm taking these three variables and porting it into here. But they're all strings. So what are we doing with these? Well, I have a style with an underscore before the tech, and it says techie teacher.bold. This is what I want to talk about. Techie teacher is a string that equals several variables, Chris, demanding, and then tech. And look what happened with bold. That's because of this. That is a string method, basically functionality that's built into the language that does what you tell it to do. And I'm applying it with dot syntax on the variable techie teacher. And when I output bold tech, which is down in line 43, guess what I get? You got it, a bold line. So I've done the same with the italics method, the two uppercase method, and the font color method as well. Later on, I'll show you how to use JavaScript to control your CSS. This is actually a string property, font color, but just as a preview of coming attractions, this is another way to do this. You could do bold color dot display. Actually, you could do let's do where's the bold tech is techie teacher. So I'm going to add a p tag here to show that you can do HTML with your variables. So now I've got p equals that, and I need to give it an access point that can be controlled with JavaScript. So I'll say tech. Okay, so if I want to get control of this and style it the same way I did here, I can do something like document.getElement by ID, and it's going to be tech, and dot style, which is the style property of the string object, which is actually CSS, dot color, and I'll make that equal to, I'll do a hexadecimal just because I know we have designers in our midst here. So now I've got that variable, okay? So I'm going to make that like that, and red bold tech equals bold tech. Okay, so now when I hit refresh again, Chris, and we have style of null on this value. So let's fix that real quick. We've got tech, which is document get element ID. That's because it hasn't been logged to a page. So what we can do about that is to put it inside. I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. This right here. So this will be written, and now we can get the ID. So let's do Chris, and there we see. I think I wrote it as yellow. So yes, I think so. Red. And I'll just keep it a teacher. There we go. So the teacher demands that we do that. The hexadecimal for red, and I'm forgetting it now, is I believe FF. Yeah, and 4 of those. So I had yellow. Now I can run it again. Chris. And there's the red. So that's how you can style using the CSS object, but there will be more coming forward with that. And that's a little lesson on variables. Now, the next thing I'll show you is how to attack your homework, which is a reflection of what we've done in this screencast.